Just give me a second. Ooh, give me a second.
It's the Murali End, you're the place to be. Analyze the players and the team. Keep a great company in the stream.
It's a Murali End. Welcome to the show. We're here when you're high. We're here when you're low. Some days you're happy, some days you wanna when happy. It's we when man, it's them. It's the same place, Murali End. Sri Lanka cricket, we gon' represent. So tell a friend.
Welcome to the Murali End. I'm Dominic Machado, and today I am joined by Kavinka Fernando. Kavi, you asked us specifically, let's hold off to getting you on the podcast till we get a Sri Lanka win, because we've had you after Sri Lanka losses. How does it feel to be on the positive side of things?
Again, it's by chance, right? It was a joke when I said I come on board, only Sri Lanka wins. Because what we're doing right now, I don't have nice things to say at all. And then Mark asked us who's free, and I said I'm free, but like let's see what the score is. And so I just obliged to come. But anyway, good news better than bad news.
Yeah, good to get off the snide, right? We had lost 5 matches in a row, 5 T20 matches in a row. So good to get back in. It was a professional bowling performance, and then the 2 guys that we have come to depend upon for scoring runs came in and scored runs, Patham and Kusal. Patham was brilliant towards the back end of the innings. I think Sanuda brought this up. We've had 1 win in the last 2 years when one of those 2 didn't score over 20 runs, and that continues to hold true. One of the things we're going to talk about too, Kavi, is whether this changes the outlook of what's going on. But for now, let's talk about the game. And we had 2 changes ringing in the day, right? Wouldn't have been a Sri Lanka match if we did not have 2 changes. Also, welcome to the people who are coming in. Throw in your comments. We're going to throw open the set for you guys to come back and chat about things as well. So we'll do that in a few minutes. But 2 changes were Viaskanth, who had made his debut, and we talked about how that was such a important, informative moment for Sri Lankan cricket to play a Sri Lankan of Tamil descent from the north in the national side. But he was then subsequently dropped. I think based off of what I heard, it was not performance related, but he was brought in because Mahesh Deekshana was unfit for the last game and was ready to go. And then Kamindu Mendes, who's been in the squad as a number 7, was dropped for Pawan Ratnayaka. We can't say anything about Pawan Ratnayaka's inclusion because he didn't get to bat today, though I think we would rightly have some questions about where exactly in that lineup he was going to bat. But Mahesh Deekshana, having him back in the side, what did you think, Kavi?
I think it was good having him in the side. The question is now, I saw you were very animated about this, and I should ask you, what have you figured out the emoji for dropping Vyas and Kamindu and bringing Pawan and Deekshana in?
We need an emoji of that, the carousel, because that's what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to have more explanations. We've had 8 changes in 3 games, and that just is an unbelievable thing. I'm glad they brought Deekshana back, because one thing they really lacked in the last match was someone to bowl up top. You saw we had Viaskanth and Hasaranga and Shanaka bowling up top, and Deekshana comes in and bowls up top and takes 2 wickets. He could have had more. And so that was really good to see him back doing what he does best, which is striking in the power play, dominating teams in the power play. I will admit, I'm not a huge fan of giving Dasan Shanaka the new ball. That seems like a ploy that's not really a good one for this side. But right now he's the 5th bowler. The only other option is Kamindu Mendes. So he's got to bowl somewhere, and he's got to bowl his full quota of overs. What do you think about the choice to put in, say, someone like Dasun Shanaka instead of Dushmantha Chameera up top?
I mean, obviously, like when you're speaking to people who played cricket at a very high level, obviously I haven't, but when we were in the under 13s, under 15s, when we were playing and speaking to other people, like they'd say, okay, the fifth bowler is someone who sort of is like a so and so bowler, but then now, especially in modern day cricket, you have so many teams, the Indias, the Australias, like those big teams, they have a specialized fifth bowler.
Yeah.
In fact, he or she might be so specialized that it can be a massive all-rounder. So like I'm saying, like someone like another one in the Hasaranga.
Yeah.
Is that fifth?
Hardik Pandya and Akshar Patel, if we're thinking about India, right? Or Pakistan, right? They've got 3 or 4 guys. They have Saeem Ayub, and they all have these different roles to play, right?
Exactly. So when you're talking about those big sides, which honestly we would love to compare ourselves to, but right now we should acknowledge, number one, that we aren't those sides. We aren't the Indias and the Australias. We have to just swallow that, and we need to understand that, okay, still we need to give a chance to this team.
Yeah.
Like you said, like Mark said once, I think he said this earlier this week when we were just talking about Liverpool and Sri Lanka as well, right? You should keep these players in a certain, like you should keep them in the camp, in the selection, the squads, without changing them up. And so, okay, if your plan is to bowl Dasun Shanaka as the fifth bowler, do it.
At least stick with it.
Just don't change it in the next game.
Yeah.
But if you are changing, just make sure that the person who's coming in has a bit of experience and is a proven fifth bowler who has played as a fifth bowler in, say, at least the domestic sides.
Yeah.
So yes, I'd say, look, everything that I see right now is just a build up to the World Cup. The World Cup is going to be played at home. We can't be humiliated, right? The same way that we were humiliated the last time out, which is the Asia Cup. That the amount of memes that were coming out of that, right? Like, yes, it was funny, but at the same time, getting bowled out for that 50, that was such a dark day. In fact, it was a dark day. Literally, it was raining.
Literally, it was a dark day. Yeah. And the thing is, Kavi, what we saw today was this is the formula. If you're Sri Lanka, this is the formula you back to win, right? Is you bowl well, you restrict sides, you have Hasaranga in the wickets, you have Deekshana in the wickets, you have Dushmantha Chameera and Eshan Malinga applying pressure, and you keep them to a middling score, and then you trust your experienced top order batters in Pathum Nissanka, Kusal Mendes, and Kusal Pereira to get you over the line, right? That's how this team is currently built. I think it would be a mistake to say that going into the World Cup, there's any expectations that you're going to have a middle order that's going to go at 10, 15 and over. You're built to win by scoring runs up top, and by having a bowling unit that's capable of restricting other sides. And that, I think, is one of the fifth bowler problem, right? We see this chopping of changing of Kamindu Mendes, who's been coming in 7. We have Pawan Ratnayaka. And I wonder, right, and I'm curious your opinion on this, Kavi, getting someone in who is more of a fifth bowler, right? We talked about 6'5", like, when we win, very rarely is it the number 7 or the number 8 that's providing a match-winning performance. Now, that fifth bowler will bowl all the time. Every match, you're going to need a fifth bowler. So I think when I'm thinking about utility, right, I'm not thinking, oh, that 7th or 8th batter. How many times has that 7th or 8th batter won us a game when we batted, even when we batted deep? Very rarely. So for me, I'm thinking, okay, maybe you're thinking Milan Ratnayaka or Nuwan Tushara as that person in, right, instead of Kamindu Mendes. If you think, okay, Kamindu Mendes isn't doing the job, I would put a fifth bowler in. That's my opinion. That being said, someone like Pawan Ratnayaka might feel really hard done by that.
Yeah. So like you made a very good point, which is that if you're asking for the eighth batter to come in, how many times is the eighth batter actually going to do it? And in fact, how many times is the eighth batter going to come in the first place?
Yeah.
Now, okay, for Sri Lanka, it might be different because you would actually see the eighth batter coming in more often, unfortunately. But for the bigger sides, it's not the case.
Yeah.
But like I said, we have to be realists. But for the fifth bowler has to bowl.
Yeah.
So I pretty much look. I genuinely don't care who is that fifth bowler. Okay, fine. If it's Dasun, it's Dasun. He has the experience to back it, so I trust him with what he's doing. Whether or not he was good today is a question for the future. Like, okay, if he's the fifth bowler, is he going to be the fifth bowler for, say, until the World Cup ends? That's my answer to it. I can't say.
Yeah.
I just don't feel like we should base it on this game. And
I think, you know, one of the positive arguments, right? So Ora Luffy 777 says we must move to a 6-5 combination, right? I genuinely agree with that. As a long-term strategy. Now, the question for me is on Sri Lankan pitches, I think you might be able to get away with some combination of Dasan and Charith as a fifth bowler. Now, I'm not saying that that's good strategy, right? That's how we should be thinking. There are other ways of approaching this situation. But I think if you are thinking with Sri Lanka, you could say, I can see a world where they can function as a fifth bowler. Now, you might also ask the question of, well, what about bringing in someone like a Dunith Walalage, right? Because we know how handy he can be. You put him on the Premadasa, he is very, very good there.
Yeah.
Right? He is very, very good in those situations. So, to my mind, I think that, you know, there is an argument to be made for 7-4 for this World Cup, but I also think there's a good argument to be made for 6-5. I think we have to think in terms of, and we've been having this conversation, you know, a few times. We have to think in terms of match winners, not who's going to help us avoid a really bad loss, but who's actually going to win us the matches, because that's why we won today. We got a match-winning performance from Mahesh Deekshana, and we got a match-winning performance from Pathum Nissanka. How do we stack this lineup, both bowling and batting, with people who are going to win us the match? I see we have Kulanu in backstage. We're going to open this up, have people come in. Let's see. I think this is the right. Nope, that's not the right layout. Let's see if we can find this. Nope. 3 people. Do you know how to? Let's see.
I think it was. So this is what we're on right now.
We're gonna, Kulunu, we're gonna add you to stage.
This is like
right
trying
now.
to fit in the fifth bowler.
Yeah, this is like the fifth bowler situation right now. And let's see, can we remove this? Oh, I think it might be something like this. Oh, no.
There's a different layout.
There's a different layout. Okay, and we just need to remove this. Nope, no. Sorry, guys. Mark usually gives us a little bit of help with this. Okay. Sorry, Kulunu. We'll bring you up in a second. Anyways, Kulunu, what were your thoughts on the match while we get this sorted out?
Thanks, guys. No worries. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Yes, thank you. I think it was a good performance, especially because we'll be facing Zimbabwe in the group stages, if I'm correct, right? I think the fixture list was just out. I think Sri Lanka cricket has just posted it.
Yep.
So I looked at it, and then obviously Zimbabwe is going to be one of our group stage opponents. So I guess the most recent performance against Zimbabwe, unless we play them again, which is unlikely, will be, I guess, a psychological advantage, or we know what went well. I think overall, looking at the series and build up to the World Cup, I think I agree with what both of you said, but also what we have been discussing throughout the week and last week, right? How we need to stick to a strategy and then repeat that to see whether there's a result that's going to come out of it. Now, I'm trying to rationalize um, what what the changes can be and what the changes mean, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a symptom of the players who we are banking on to put in a performance day after day, like for example, Bhuvan Tushara or like Mahesh Deekshana, they sometimes have off days, and it's too close to a World Cup to have those off days.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not putting the blame on the player or the selection or whatever, but it just happens to be the case that we haven't either backed them earlier on enough with the same strategy, or we have created the environment, a good enough environment so that they can be trusted and they feel like they can perform freely, and now they are just pointing. Now, whatever the problems that we have discussed in the past that have compounded to a place where we are so close to a World Cup, and the performances are not like at 90% or 99%, right? So,
Yeah.
say for example, Nuwan Tushara, we know that he has this in swinger to the left-handers.
Yeah.
And if he gets us a couple of wickets in the earlier on in the power play in one of those games in the World Cup or even the World Cup, that's a huge advantage to restrict the batters. You're not going to do that with like Dasun Chanak and Theekshana, especially if Theekshana does not have a good game every day. So
Yeah.
all in all, as you said, we are hedging for the games we might lose, but we should be actually going all out for a winning strategy. So I think the changes are too much. For example, Pawan Ratnaik coming in for Kamidu Mendes, we couldn't have just evaluated it today because there was no sample to evaluate it by.
Yeah.
So I think the changes, if I'm to rationalize it, and because they are so experienced and they are in the places that they get paid to select, to coach, to play, right? So I'm trying to rationalize, but that's how I see it because by this point in time, we should have just backed the strategy. We should have gotten consistent performances, and the results should have been arrived.
Yeah.
But for a number of reasons, we haven't had that, and then now we change and chop because we are unsure. Because, for example, if you go back, my last point in this situation is that in the Asia Cup, we won 3 games. We suddenly lost against Bangladesh. We had that issue of that fifth bowler, Kamil Mendes bowler over, unfortunately got hit by Rahul Ridhoi. And then we suddenly changed, brought in Charmika, brought in some other guys.
Yeah.
And then, but I know half a heart, they know that this is not going to work. And they go back to the one that actually worked. And then we start performing again. So I feel like, as you guys said, let's stick to one. 7-4-6-5 is just a choice, right? And let's stick to one and let's see if the performance come by and in the World Cup.
Exactly. I think that's 100% right. This chopping and changing changes the roles, right? So like whether Dawson bowls or not, when he's going to bowl. And I think what you see is that we actually have one advantage is that we have bowlers who are phase specialized. So if you lean into that and allow them to bowl in those phases, you're going to be very productive, right? So Eshan Malinga bowling at the middle overs in the death is very productive. But if you're bowling him in the power play, not going to be productive. Same thing with Mahesh Deekshana. Really good in the power play. We've seen that that's a weapon. If you want a wicket taker up top, he can do that job. And so you got to use him there. And I think that's the key. And then Wanindu Hasaranga, right? He's a middle overs bowler. That's where he bosses the game. Keep those guys there, and then you build around that, right? Because those guys are and then Chamira, where thankfully he's flexible and you can bowl him when and where you need him. I want to ask a question to the both of you, Kavi and Kulunu, and I'll give my opinion. Sanuda asks, what's the point of Mendes at 3?
I have nothing against Mendes, but that means that I have nothing good to say about Mendes. So I'm just going to give this to Kulunu because I would rephrase the question and be like, what's the point of Mendes? Sometimes I just don't understand. But hey, today he played a good supporting role. I'm happy with it as long as these happy performances come in, right? I just feel like okay. Sorry. Just to conclude, I just feel like there's some players, who might need to be reconsidered after this T20 World Cup. to get prepped for the 2027
Mhm.
World Cup. So he's just one of the players who I think needs to be reconsidered. But Kulunu, you can have a much more detailed, less cynical opinion on this.
Thanks for the question as well. I think obviously I agree with that. Kusal Mendis has been there in the Sri Lankan setup for a long time, and it's high time he performed at a really high level. But I think it's a question of the whole top three structure, right? And it also fits in of how we think about Kamil Mishara and Pratham Nissanka as well. I know they started off well today, but another reason why I like the practice combination at the start is because let's say Pratham Nissanka does not get going, maybe on another day Kusal Mendis can,
Mm.
because it's the power play scenario. And for me, I don't know, this is how I think. For the power play, it does not matter so much whether it's a left hand, right hand combination, because both sides, usually the power play restrictions are on, right? So you can actually access both sides of the wicket easily for boundaries rather than sixes. And maybe when the power play is done, maybe we need a left hand right hand combination to keep tick over the singles. Maybe there's a one side short boundary, or there's different kinds of bowlers bowling. And it also depends on like what Kamil Vishada also feels comfortable with, if we are going ahead with him as
Yeah.
an open or top three. So I like Pattis at the start, but I'm not very worried about. It's not one of those deal breakers for me, but I like Pattis at the start.
Yeah. So my answer to this question is what you saw today. People might look at that 25 off 25 and say, okay, well, what's the point of that? He's actually comfortable against spin. That's the reason why they've moved him to 3, because, and we've seen this time and again in Afghanistan against the Asia Cup, he was the one that carried us over the line. If there's someone who can hit boundaries and rotate strike against spin in our squad, it's Mendis. I actually kind of think 4 might not be a bad place to put him, precisely because of that. You want his entry point to be, close to that 6th over mark, right? And I do think one of the frustrating things is Patis is one of the big positives we've had going into this World Cup, and we've destroyed it. But, and this is a big if, what you want Kamil Mishara to do is take advantage of the fast bowling, because he does one thing that he does better than most of the players on our team is he's taller. So he handles the bounce of Ngarava and Evans much better, and he's able to hit boundaries off of them in ways that others can't. So I don't mind that. I'm curious that when they go back to Sri Lanka, where the pitches will not tend to be as bouncy, whether they'll go back to Patis opening. But I think the reason why they've moved Mendis up to 3 is to counterspin, because none of the other players, yes, I know KJP, I'm sure in the comments someone's going to say KJP bats at 160 versus spin, but he is also capable of getting out. If you want to control and be in control of that middle over phase, I think Mendis is really, really important for that. And delaying his entry point can be a helpful way. Like, I think part of the reason why Nissanka was able to go off today is because he was ably supported, right? He didn't feel like he needed to go for the big shot till he was ready for it. So that's my opinion on Mendis at 3. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. No, just agreeing with your point, the fact that he does seem like an anchor at some point, because like 25 or 25. If you can't put him as an opener, put him as number 4, just because, like, okay, sometimes the times when I'm not watching the start of our innings, I would just turn on the TV and suddenly we have 2 down.
Yeah.
And that would be before we score 40 runs. That just means that we are collapsing. But then you bring someone on like that. Yeah, I agree with some of this point, like him not being bad, like 25 or 25, which is exactly why you would want someone like that to come in at 4 or even 5. But I agree with that point, like that about Kusal Mendis.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think, right, if he got off for something like 20 off 12, we could have lost, right? Because Nissanka goes, and then we're into a very edgy and problematic middle order. And I mean, I think this gets to the point, and Kulanu, I want to ask your opinion. To me, this doesn't really move the meter on where our team is right now. We knew this about them, that when Mendes and Nisanka score, we do well, and that the bowling unit has the talent. What we're not seeing is whether the middle order can do anything to back that up.
Yeah, I think you're right. But the fact that we know is also the positive, right? So why can't we create the best environment that the bowlers can, do their job without changing their roles a lot, or get the top order in good shape? So I think because we have changed and chopped and changed so much. I know it's bad, but right now the history reflects what works and what doesn't work very clearly, right? When
Yeah.
you do certain things, you lose very badly, and you do certain things, you put together a performance. So I think the team themselves, the coaches, selectors, whoever, now knows. I mean, it now knows what we know and better than what we know as well, because they are in the thick of it, right?
They're
So
there, right?
I think the strange thing is that now they know what is the worst strategy, what's the worst kind of selection, and
Yeah.
vice versa. They know what the best kind of selection is, what the best kind of sort of strategies. But the only thing I would say is that I don't know when the deadline is to submit like the 15 for the World Cup. If we are thinking of like a strategy for like just a tournament, not like a game, like a one-off
Yeah.
game, how do we think of like the whole 15 as a spot? Whether somebody like a Pawan Ratnayak or a Kamil Medis or a Jahid Lianage or a Riaz Khan, are they in the picture? Where are they in the betting
Yeah.
order? Is like the thing that I just don't have
Yeah.
a clear answer on.
It's almost as if you have like 6 or 7 locks in the squad, right? You have Thikshana, you have Hasaranga, you have Eshan Malinga, you have Chamira among the bowlers, you have Kusal Mendes, you have Patam Nisanka. Dasan Chanaka is probably a lock as well at this point. But I think the way you have to build this team is just being honest with yourself and saying, we're really not we shouldn't expect much from our middle order. We have not found any combination, and we've tried almost every single combination of middle order players that we can imagine. Right now, if you were to build a side, now I want to say that 2014 Sri Lanka kind of had the same issue, and they won the World Cup. I'm not saying that we're going to do it and that we're capable of doing that in 2025, but they had Lahira Thirumanna batting at 5. They had Dinesh Chandimal batting at 6. That was not power from the middle order. But what they knew was that if their top 4 scored runs, right, then they were in the game with a chance, and they backed it with their bowling.
Yeah, I think one thing is interesting to see what happens to Charith Asalanka when he recovers from the illness.
Yeah. I want to get both of your opinions on that. What do you think happens with Charith Asalanka? So Sanuda asks, no Charith, is that fair? And let's be clear here. We don't actually know what the situation is. There's a lot of sketchy things going on. There's a lot of lack of clarity. Like, is it just they sent him home for this? Is he not going to be back in the squad? What do you guys think about that?
If it is a personal thing, I'd say let it go. Like if it's honestly a personal thing, like the benefit of the doubt lies with him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not, I mean, if it's clearly something, a personal vendetta against someone, or something that he disagrees with, while the rest of the team has to stay back and deal with that,
yeah,
then I don't know. We must start acting like a big side first of all, in order to become that big side. If this happened in India, what do you think would happen, Dom?
right? Yeah, that would be right. You know what? Okay, Kolunu, I'll come with you to a second. The fact that they have not had Sanath Chaudhary in front of camera answering this question about why Charith Asalanka has gone home and why there was a vice captain named is absolutely ridiculous to me. I think that is absurd. And you should, anytime you have a change like that in a situation as it evolved, you have to at least give us answers. It might be a total Boru answer, right? Like, we have to be willing to accept that, but at least he should be in front of the cameras telling his narrative and what's going to happen to him.
Yeah, I think you're right, Dom. I think I agree with you saying that. I double down on the point where the camp should come up with the information. Otherwise, there's too much social commentary out there, right? So much speculation. But I think as a batsman, at least, we know he can clear the boundary on the leg side, right?
Yeah.
So even as like a diminutive player, not as like a Kyron Pollard or Andre Russell, but he can clear the boundary. He has shown that he can, at least in 50 over cricket, he can like take the pressure situations on. I remember the 50 over game, the 2023 Asia Cup before we
Yeah.
lost badly to India in the final. Like that kind of innings is something that Charit is capable of. So, and of course, he is captain or was captain, and we were building towards something. So, I think I would like to see him in the mix. I don't know unless there's something terribly unacceptable. I would like to see him in the mix
Yeah.
because he was in the flag.
Yeah. And I think when we talk about the fragility of the middle order, right, that's something everyone recognizes. Everyone talks about it. The two players who have shown the capability of scoring any runs in the Sri Lankan middle order are Dawson and Charith. And I think imagining the side without the two of them as middle order players is a problem. I think, and look, Lianage has one of the hardest roles where he's a player who is a strike rotator, who's a guy who should be batting at that 4 position in ODIs or T20s, but he's given this position at 6-7 where he's supposed to hit boundaries. That's just putting him in a situation where he's not going to succeed. And he's never going to win a match on the back of a 40 off of 35, or very, very rarely will that be the case. And that to me is a sort of a big issue and problem. Like, I think your top 4 right now should be some order of Kamil Mishara, Kusal Mendes, Pathum Nissanka, and Kusal Janeth Pereira, and then immediately be followed by Charith and Dawson and Wani. Okay, like that to me makes sense, and you shouldn't play with that. You shouldn't move guys in and out. And I know it's harsh on a guy like Pawan Ratnayaka, but Pawan Ratnayaka's domestic strike rate is 103. Right? We're not putting in a guy who has like a one. It's not like we brought in Vishen Halambage and said, okay, now he's going to smash boundaries in the middle over, or Lasith Krispale. We brought in a guy whose domestic strike rate is 103. He's never played around the world, and we know that is poor.
Yeah, I think even that plus, let's say they made 148 today, right?
Yeah.
Let's for a moment imagine we played Nuwan Tushar instead of Pawan Ratnayaka, and it could have been even less than 148.
Mm-hmm.
And even if, let's say, Nuwan Tushar did the same job as Dasun Chanaka, and let's say Pathum Nissanka got out earlier, for a score of 148, Vandu Hasaranga should be good enough to bat at 7 and we can finish the game. So
yeah.
I think I know we are coming back to the point of like how comfortable the team is with 6-5. Maybe suddenly the whole confidence goes down. Even it seems into the bowling lineup where like they're too much under pressure of like trying to defend the score or like keep the runs down. But I think we should really think of getting in the people who has the best chance of either scoring runs or taking wickets into the team, right? It's just a 20 over game after all.
Yeah, exactly.
Time's running out as well. Like we're almost in December. By the time this finishes, it's going to be December. As in, by the time this tri-series finishes, it's going to be December, and we technically have 2 more months until our home fans come and look. Regardless of the pitch or whatever, just okay. If you want to make it into a paddy field, make it into a paddy field. Just win the thing,
But, or at least get out of the first round. That I think that's
save everyone's time.
Yeah, save everyone's time.
There's also this thing where I'm not sure, like if you've ever played for a sports team, whether it's in school or at a national level, when a tournament comes by, and if you are a team that's in contention to win the game or win the tournament, you sort of like get your boys together. The coach rounds you up and says, guys, no fooling around. You have to sacrifice so many things. We are going to win this tournament. And I think that's the first thing that Sanath has to say. Sanath, or anyone for that matter. Yeah. Even Charit can come back and say, maybe not Charit in this context, but like somebody has to say, guys, Kollo, like you have to pull your socks up. For the next 2 months, we're not going to play the fool with anything. We're going to focus 101% on cricket. it's been a while since we've won the World Cup. It's been one entire, cricketing generation
Yeah.
since we won the World Cup as well. Let's play. Let's put a show in front of our home fans and sort this thing out, and at least get to the final and give ourselves a pat on the back once we do it. That's something that I mean. Look, uh, I played in sport. I played in tennis and football, and these are the things that our coaches say when tennis tournaments come around, especially like 2 months before the games. Our coaches say like, stop what you're doing. Sometimes they even say like cut classes and stuff like that, which will honestly take. And it'll be like, let's just win the tournament.
Yeah.
And we honestly done like 9 times out of 10. We've honestly done. So yeah, tactics aside, I think just the discipline has to come back as well. Sort this thing out, sort this Charita Sri Lanka thing out. The faster it is, the better. Sanath has to take hold of the mantle as well. But yeah, all we
Yeah.
can do is hope for the best. Hope that these things just happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just quickly. Sorry,
Yeah, go
Dom.
for
I
it,
think
Floyd.
quickly
No,
just
go
to
for it.
come in on that. I think they're probably discussing that. Obviously, I hope they're motivated and having that discussion about like, okay, let's
Hope so.
do something,
Yeah.
really substantial in the World Cup, especially given that it's at home. But I think some of the things that they need to do is the little bit of extra work that each player needs to do. Like for example, it's just an example only. I'm not criticizing the player or anything. Then you Ishan Malinga bowled 2 balls when the extra cover and mid off were up and then got hit.
Yeah.
Those kind of things, like what can I do? What is the extra type of work that I need to do? What are the extra kind of shots that I need to prepare for? What are the extra kind of like strategic or tactical things that I need to do? Maybe those sort of extra 110% things that they are the ones that players need to probably do. And I should look at the fixture list. If you were to be like judgmental about team rankings, I know teams are very close today. We have the best scenario where we have Ireland and Oman first, Australia the tough game third, where we can probably get a cushion in, and if something goes really bad against Australia, come back against Zimbabwe. So fixture list is kind to us, so it's up to the players and the management to really try.
Yeah, they have to show up totally on target, and we've seen that this happened in this tri series. They have not shown up ready to play, and that's a big problem. That's a coaching problem. Nizwan points out that we need to finalize by December 31st. So, and there's no more matches. Pakistan is going to supposedly come to Sri Lanka in January to get acclimated, and we're going to play England in January. So I don't know what they're going to do. I think in some ways having no matches will be good because they should reflect on what have we seen. We played a lot of players. What have we seen? What's going to happen? I want to get to a question. Savina brings up Duneth and Milan. And to my mind, these are the two guys, along with Dasan Chanaka, who can reasonably thought of as playing some type of all-rounder role. And frankly, I think if they're batting Kamindu Mendes at 7, I think Dunethwal Alagay in T20 batting is not that different from Kamindu right now. They're both left-handers. They both will strike around 120, 130. They're not big hitters, but with Duneth, you do get high-quality bowling. Yes, I know the Asia Cup was a disaster, but that's what happens when you leave a left-arm spin bowler to bowl the 20th over. He has other skills that he can use as a fifth bowler, and you can combine him with Dasan Chanaka. You can combine him with other guys. Milan Ratnayaka, also a possible option. You know, he's a capable bowler. I don't know if he's a wicket-taking bowler, but he can hit the ball a little bit. I think those are two guys that I would have in the 15. And then I would think matchup-wise about what works best. So if you have a lot of right-handers, Dunethwal Alagay is going to feast against a side like that. Milan Ratnayaka, if you have a wicket that you think maybe you're playing in Dumbula and you're getting a little bit more bounce, a truer wicket, he might be a guy you want to play. So I think those are the two guys for me that I would kind of have around the squad as all-rounders. But I'm curious to see what you guys think.
Kuno, did you get that?
Yeah, I think what you said was right, but I still think I mean still difficult to pinpoint of what the strategy overall strategy is, right? I
Yeah.
just want, as I've been saying, if you settle down on a strategy, which is just like apples and oranges choices, right? It's not that certain strategies are way, better than others. I
Yeah.
just want them to show us that it shows the signs that the 15 and the 11 is big based on that strategy, and we're going to follow that strategy.
Yeah.
At least create that space in this little bubble before the World Cup, and then go through the World Cup, and then everything for criticism is on the table, both for the team as introspection and for people outside after the World Cup, right? So I
Yeah.
know the people in the mix are good. A lot of people have been saying that yes, these players like Paul Lataaka, Vishen, Diaz, they are all in the conversation, but we haven't made wholesale changes. We haven't panicked so much that we have completely overhauled the squad. So that's good.
Yeah,
Um,
most of the squad is kind of set in stone. It's just I think they have to figure out how they plan to attack these teams, right? Like to my
yeah,
mind, we are a bowling side with a good top order, right? And that's the what everything should pivot around. Like if you're going to
that
win matches, it's not because Jonas Leonage somehow becomes a superhuman finisher. Like that is just not in the realm of possibility. What's in the realm of
yeah.
possibility for me is you have a big tournament from Kusal Mendes, you have a big tournament from Patham Nissanka, you have Dawson is in good form, and the bowlers are firing on all levels.
Yeah, I think just to finish up on the point of like you guys were discussing this week and last week, whether like what is Sri Lanka and how Sri Lanka has built up teams earlier on, like we didn't have a middle order or whatever, right? Now, sadly, in the global conversation, every team is building towards one template, right?
Yeah.
Where they have to go hard at the top, Abhishek Sharma, Travis Head, whoever it is, and then have the finishers like Tim Davids, get the bowlers in play, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's a whole different conversation where the diversity of how teams play has gone out of the window, and that's kind of like the color of cricket has gone a little bit, I would say,
Yeah.
as opposed to the previous eras. But everybody is now building towards this one benchmark of how to play cricket. But
Yeah.
to really get that right, as you guys have pointed out, it's too late for this World Cup. I mean, we should have done that. In 2022, I believe Simon Dood, who was commentating on the World Cup, said that Sri Lanka seems to be building something. And in the next couple of World Cups, it might show up. One of them happened in 2024 in the US and West Indies, we patched out. And the next one is now here. Same group of players, more or less.
Yeah.
People like Pathum Nissanka have increased their strike rates from that time to now. So let's see what happens. But I guess after the World Cup, we need to think about like, okay, are we on par? Obviously, we are not on par, but what is the gap like in terms of the building a new side?
Yeah. I think we should end it right here. But hey, we got to win today. We have all to play for on Thursday. A win against Pakistan would do this side a world of good. It would give us another extra game before the World Cup to think about what we're doing, right? Or to think of before the selection. So that's something that I think is really important. It's important that they build off of this victory. Okay, that they build off of this victory, they go hard, and they win against Pakistan on Thursday. I think that'll add to this team's confidence, give them a little bit of momentum. And, they win 3 on the bounce and they win this tri-series. Maybe we start feeling a little bit more confident and we have more positive things to say. But I think that comes with the recognition of what kind of team we are and how we have to play to win. Anyways, that's been it for the Murali End. Thank you guys for joining us. As always, after the match will be available after the match on Thursday, and we will talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.
Thank
you. It's the Murali End, you're in a place to be. Analyze the players and the team. Keep a great company in the stream.
It's the Murali End. Welcome to the show. We're here when you're high. We're here when you're low. Some days you're happy, some days you wanna when happy it's we, when mad it's them. It's the same place, Murali End. Sri Lanka cricket we gon' represent. So tell a friend.